Hey everyone, Retire on Dividends here. I'm back for another weekly series to dry. What is dry? Well, if you're new to the series, it's basically comparing Defiance versus Roundhill versus YieldMax. But it's comparing specific funds that pay on a weekly basis and do have similar strategies. They do options on similar indexes or similar underlyings. And I'll explain each one as we get into it. But we do basically look at them, kind of side by side, and then we look at them, overall, who's the best one, and we see how they kind of work day in and day out. So, and I cover how they do for the latest week in this video. Obviously, it posts every Saturday for every week. So first up on this tab, you see QQQY versus QDTE. So QQQY is a Defiance fund and QDTE is a Roundhill fund, both of which they trade options on the NASDAQ. They do either 0 or 1 day till expiration. One sells puts, being Defiance, and one sells calls. So let's get to the comparison. So this past week, let's look at how Monday went. The NASDAQ went down 1.29%, QQQY went down 1.14%, and QDTE went down 1.13%. So overall, QDTE was the winner because it did beat QQQY by 0.01%. And then so Monday reflected what? Saturday's date. So Monday was what, the 12:30, and then New Year's Eve. Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah, okay. So Tuesday, the NASDAQ went down 0.87%, and QQQY went down 0.55%, and QDTE went down the same exact number, but QDTE took the win. Why? Because obviously this goes out, many, many more decimals. We only reflect, 2 decimal positions. However, the formula is going to pick up the overall winner. So, even though it's not a big win, it's a win nonetheless. So QDTE for the win. The next day, the NASDAQ went down 0.17%. This would be actually the Thursday because New Year's fell on Wednesday, 1/1. But for whatever reason, Google Sheets will reflect, if there is a weekend or a holiday, it will reflect the next day's, result in the previous, the holiday. Okay, I don't know why, but it does. But regardless, Thursday, NASDAQ went down 0.17%, and QQQY went down. QQQY went up 0.29%. QDTE went down 0.13%. So QQQY for the win on that day. And then on Friday, we had a really good day, super green day. NASDAQ went up 1.67%. And guys, this is where Roundhill shines. QQQY only captured 0.61%, so they missed a whole percent. However, QDTE captured 1.39%. So QDTE for the win yet again. So QDTE 3 wins versus QQQY 1 win. All right. Again, there was only 4 trading days this week, so obviously that's why there's only 4 results. Obviously, you do see the distributions, which, I cover the yield later, but the reason I reflect the distribution on this page is because I deduct it from the daily change, so it doesn't affect, the results when we compare them, all right? Up next is WDTE versus XDTE. So this is same comparison, Defiance versus Roundhill. However, it's done via the S&P 500. So on Monday, the S&P 500 went down 1.07%, WDTE went down 1.19%, and XDTE went down 1.09%. So XDTE for the win. Typically on down days, you would see the Defiance funds winning. However, Roundhill did take the win. And then on Tuesday, the S&P went down 0.43%. WDTE went down 0.11%. XDTE went up 0.1%. So XDTE for the win. And then on the Thursday, S&P went down 0.22%. WDTE went down 0.03%. And XDTE went down 0.25%. So WDTE took the win on that day. And then on Friday, again, another up day. We're expecting Roundhill to win. Let's see. S&P went up 1.26%. WDTE went up 0.54%. XDTE went up 1.09%. So as expected, XDTE did take the win on the Friday. Because again, if most of the movement is happening on the pre-market, right, then they'll capture it because they're not locked in on any calls on the overnights, right? They do their call during the day. They close it at the end of the day. That's the good thing about their strategy. And so far, we see that it works better than the Defiance strategy. All right, up next is the Russell comparison. We got IWMY versus RDTE. On Monday, the Russell went down 0.75%. IWMY went down 0.17%. RDTE went down a little more at 0.31%. So IWMY for the win. On Tuesday, the Russell went up 0.11%. IWMY went up 0.15%. And RDTE went up 0.27%. So RDTE for the win. And then on Thursday, kind of a flat day. On flat days, we expect Defiance to win. Let's see. The Russell went up. And guys, I didn't really look at the results, just so you guys know. So I'm kind of looking at this for the first time. The Russell went up 0.07%. IWMY went up 0.57%. And RDTE went up 0.24%. So yes, as expected, Defiance did win on the near to flat day. And then, last but not least, on the Friday, we expect Roundhill to win. Because why? Because the Russell, just like the other indexes, went up a lot. It went up 1.65%. IWMY captured about half of that at 0.8%. And RDTE captured a lot of it, 1.4%. So as expected, RDTE for the win. However, between these two, they did split. These are a good battle, man. IWMY versus RDTE. They have been battling week in and week out, but they're tied this week for 2-2. Up next, we will not look at any indexes, but we will look at YMAX versus YMAG. You can consider YMAX the index of YieldMax, which it technically is, and then we have YMAG, which is really the Mag 7 index for YieldMax. So anyway, let's compare the two and see how they compare against each other. So on Monday, YMAX went down 1.27%. YMAG went down 1.06%. So YMAG for the win. On Tuesday, YMAX went down 0.76%. YMAG went down more, 1.33%. So YMAX for the win. Thursday, YMAX went up 0.53%. YMAG went down 0.36%. So YMAX for the win. And then on Friday, YMAX went up 2.29%. YMAG also went up, but not as much, 1.72%. So YMAX for the win yet again. So that's 3 wins for YMAX, 1 win for YMAG. And now the newest comparison that we just recently added. This compares YBTC, which is a Roundhill fund, versus YBIT, which is a YieldMax fund. The only difference, the difference between these funds, YBIT pays monthly, or every 4 weeks, I should say, and YBTC does pay weekly. Now, both of them trade IBIT. IBIT is their underlying, right? So we'll call that the index for them, right? That's an iShares Bitcoin ETF, one of the newer ones. They actually hold Bitcoin, so it's good. It's a good comparison when we compare to YBIT and YBTC. So let's get to it. On Monday, IBIT went down 0.24%. YBIT went up 0.81%. YBTC went down 2.56%. So I don't know why, but it did. And that's a pretty big drop if you think about it, right? That's a pretty big drop. And I don't know why, if they have similar strategies, how it could be so much different on that day, right? That's like a 3% gap. But either way, YBIT took the win that day. Tuesday, IBIT went down 0.93%. YBIT went down 0.56%. and YBTC went down 1.84%. So YBIT again took the win by a lot. Now, on Thursday, big jump. Let's see how this works out. IBIT went up 4.37%. YBIT went up 3.4%. And YBTC went up a little more at 3.49%. So YBTC did take the win on that day. Okay. Now, here's a percent change. Let's see. IBIT went up 1.07% on Friday. YBIT captured 1.02%. YBTC captured 1.74%. So here we go. As confusing as the other day was, now this is also confusing because it beat both YBIT and IBIT by a decent amount. So YBTC for the win. So they split it 2-2. However, if you look at percentage-wise, I think it's safe to say that YBIT, the NAV war is going to go to them. But I guess, we'll take a look in a second. All right, now we have the war tabs where we basically just compare the yield. We compare the NAV, the total return, the assets under management. We have fun with it. Now let's get to it. And I'll leave some... I'll put this so you can see other days. But looking at the bottom, right, this is the yield as of the current week. And how do I calculate the yield? I simply take the latest distribution on the weeklies, and I multiply that by 52 weeks, and then I divide that by the declaration date price, okay? For YBIT, it's a little different. I have to use their latest payment, which there's 13 payments a year. So I took their latest payment, I multiplied it by 13, and I divided by, the price on declaration date. So the last week they did have a payment, so I did have a yield for that. So again, their yield is going to be repetitive for the next 4 weeks, okay? If that makes sense. Now, let's compare the yields. So real quick, we'll just go in order. QQQY, their yield was 39.7%, QDTE 38.8%. So Defiance took the win there with a higher yield. And then WDTE 31.6% yield, XDTE 34.9% yield. So Roundhill took the yield war there. IWMY had a 52.4% yield, and this is surprising. RDTE beat them. They had a nice yield, 74.3%. That is unlike them, but hey, we'll take it. Up next, YMAX with a nice 55% yield, and YMAG with a better 84.1% yield. Again, they got the payment of Tesla and GUI this week, and both Tesla and GUI, they had massive payments, and they're only, they're 2 of the 7 funds. So if 2 of the 7 funds are in the same week, you're going to get a nice payment, and they did. And then YBTC, this is their first weekly payment. I have it in italics for that reason, because I don't know if this is actually just 1 week. It could be more than a week, so that's why it's in italics. So I'm going to say let's not get comfortable with this yield. But nonetheless, it was a 108% yield for YBTC. YBIT, we used the previous yield that they had of 69.75%. Now, I highlighted the top 3 as I usually do. So in first place, YBTC, in italics, of course, or an asterisk, you can say. Up in second place is YMAG at 84%, and then third place is RDTE at 74%. Up next, we have the NAV war. This simply tracks the change in the NAV for the entire week. Now, we'll go to the first group, the NASDAQ. They went down 0.66% this week. QQQY went down 0.78%, and QDTE went down 0.42%. So everything was in the negative. However, QDTE took the overall win, beating not only the index, but beating QQQY. Up next, S&P 500. They went down for the week, down 0.46%. WDTE went down more at 0.78%, and XDTE went down less than both at 0.15%. So again, Roundhill funds looking good. The Russell went up this week, up 1.07%. IWMY went up 1.35%. RDTE went up a little more at 1.59%. So RDTE and IWMY both beat the index. However, RDTE took the win. So it's a clean sweep as far as Roundhill is concerned. they swept Defiance as far as the NAV war goes. Now let's look at YMAX and YMAG. YMAX went up 0.79% this week, and YMAG went down 1.04% this week. So YMAX whooping butt. Now, IBIT had a really good week. It went up 4.26%. YBIT had an even better week. It went up 4.66%. But YBTC, for whatever reason, again, the Monday was a disaster. It went up only 0.84%. So again, YBIT did beat not only IBIT, but YBTC as well. All right. Now, who are the top three? In first place, YBIT at 4.66%. In second place, IBIT at 4.26%. And in third place, RDTE at 1.59%. Now, total return war. All right. What is total return war? Simply put, I compare the total return without dividend reinvestments. This is, just taking the dividends as cash. And I compare this from when I started tracking, which is on October 4th, up until current day, which was the last trading day, which for this video, last trading day was January 3rd, 2025. So let's compare everything. I'm not going to go through every single number because you could see the breakdown, assuming you're watching. But what matters is the total return percentage. Total return percentage for the NASDAQ during this time, they are up 6.44%. QDTE is up 4.76%, and QQQY is negative 0.11%. So we're comparing QQQY and QDTE, and QDTE whooped QQQY's ass. Why is that? Well, again, as I keep saying, when the market has big up days, and this big up day begins in the after hours or the pre-market, then Roundhill is able to capitalize and capture that upside because they have long calls and they don't have covered calls locked in and after hours. They do their covered calls during the day and they close them during the day. So anything after hours or pre-market, they typically can capitalize on all of that upside. All right. And when that happens, they leave Defiance in the dust. And that's what it's showing right here. All right. Up next, let's look at WDTE XDTE. Can't say that too fast. WDTE, XDTE, and the S&P. So the S&P, I know it shows .NIX, but that's what you got to put. Anyway, S&P during this time period, they went up 3.33%. XDTE went up 2.68%. And WDTE went negative 0.4%. So again, another letdown from Defiance because, again, unfortunately, they can't capture on those full upside days, which, it sucks. I really wish they can flip this into a positive and perform better. But, it's kind of, it's a letdown seeing this. XDTE, they went up 2.68%. They didn't beat the index, but they're pretty damn close, to be honest, for an income fund. So XDTE for the win. So Defiance took this. Oh, no, not the sweep yet. Sorry, but they will take the sweep. Now we compare the Russell funds. Russell went up 2.52%. Now RDTE is amazing. They beat the freaking Russell in total return. I know I'm not including freaking dividends that the Russell pays, but I don't have time for that. I'm sure it's not much. But the RDTE total return was 3.48%. Versus Russell's 2.52. Unfortunately, as great as IWMY is, total return from October 4th is in the negative. All right? Horrible, horrible, horrible. Negative 0.7%. So do better. Do better, Defiance. You're on thin ice with me. Anyway, YMAX versus YMAG versus MAGs. YMAX total return, awesome, awesome, awesome numbers. 12.66%. YMAG, are you freaking kidding me? Wow. It's like a tie. YMAG is up 12.66%. Obviously, I can't talk today. But YMAX took the win. Why? Because it goes out further decimals, obviously. But YMAX did beat YMAG in overall total return. But you can't go wrong, clearly, with either one. But if you compare them to the MAGs index, if you just invested in the MAGs and you don't need income, then you're doing better off because their total return was 17.45%. Guys, keep in mind, like if you're investing in these and you're just reinvesting everything and you don't need the income, does it make more sense to just own the index? Yes, absolutely. But if you invest in these funds because you use the income, or you may want to use the income, or you do use all the income, then it makes sense to have the income funds. But it all depends on the situation. But in a lot of the cases, the index is typically going to outperform in total return all of these funds, right? Not in all cases, believe it or not, but in most cases and in the long run, typically. So if you don't need the income, really, what's the point? Anyway, you guys know I use my income. These funds are paying bills for me, so that's why I use them. All right, last comparison. We got YBIT versus YBTC versus IBIT. IBIT, freaking amazing, man. It went up 57.55%. What a freaking fund. YBTC went up 32.53%, and YBIT went up 29.71%. So YBTC for the win. Even though they had a bad week, YBTC for the win. So guess what, guys? Roundhill won 4 of the 5 matches. The only reason they didn't win 5 out of 5 is because they're not against YMAX and YMAG. But if they ever have one to compare it against, sure, maybe I'll add it. But Roundhill, they're doing very well. And they're getting rewarded for it, as you can see under the assets under management war. If you look at the NASDAQs, right, QQQY they lost 75,000 outstanding shares. QDTE gained 910,000 outstanding shares. WDTE lost 175,000 outstanding shares, but XDTE gained 180,000 outstanding shares. Now, if we go to IWMY, they gained 175,000 outstanding shares, so they're still gaining in popularity. But RDTE, wow, I didn't even see that. RDTE lost 130,000 outstanding shares. Look at that. How things have changed. Oh, well. All right. Up next, YMAX. They gained 1.1 million outstanding shares. YMAG gained 850,000 outstanding shares. YBIT gained 100,000 outstanding shares. And YBTC gained 170,000 outstanding shares. So if we look at the net asset change, which is in column Q, we can see who had the biggest gain this week in net assets. Obviously, this involves the net asset value, the price of, the fund, the underlying. But QDTE had the best week by far. They went up by 28 million, if you guys care. YMAX in second place at 17 million. And then in third, who's in third? We got YBTC in third, 7.6 million, which is, again, Roundhill. So Roundhill, they're growing and they're making lots of money. So congrats to Roundhill. All right, so overall, Defiance, the value of their 3 funds is 355 mil. The value of the 4 Roundhill funds is 1.2 bill. And the value of the 3 YieldMax funds is 1.1 bill. All right. And then we have the finals. Again, this is just taking the average yield and the total NAV to see how it's been. But we'll kind of go down the line. QQQY, 41.8% average yield, total NAV, flat, essentially, it's showing. QDTE, actually, QQQY showing total NAV flat, total return. Okay, is it showing flat? Is that with, what is that adding? NAV War C23. Yeah, so it's taking from the week-to-week change over and over. Okay, whatever. I'm assuming that's right. Again, I don't know about this tab, to be honest. I have to double-check it once I log off. But anyway, QDTE showing an average yield. I may only use the average yield, actually. But QDTE average yield, 41%. Total NAV for all the weeks, 5% positive. WDTE average yield, 32%. Total NAV, negative 0.4%. XDTE average yield, 28%. Total NAV increase, 2.8%. IWMY average yield, 51%. Total NAV, negative 0.6%. RDTE average yield, 39%. Total NAV, 3.9% increase. YMAX average yield 57%. That's really nice. Total NAV positive 12.97%. YMAG 48% average yield, pretty good, and the 12.9% increase in NAV. YBIT 69.75% average yield. Did I have a note here? No, I didn't. Okay. YBIT, what I say, 69%, and then total NAV increase 29%, and then YBTC average yield 74%, total NAV increase 30%. So that is it. That's the finals of everything. Now, who is the best fund? Who is your favorite fund out of all of these? You've seen all of them now. Who is the best fund? That is my question to you guys. I know a lot of you say you love this series, but I need something from you. Tell me, who is the best fund, right? And another question is Defiance worth it anymore, right? We see how they perform over an extended period. Now that Roundhill is available, and we see the power of 0 DTE versus the 1 DTE and the power of holding the long call, is Defiance worth holding anymore now that we have Roundhill available to us? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, outside of that, guys, this is not financial advice. Keep that in mind. I am not a financial advisor. This video is for fun and entertainment. So hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you're entertained. If not, we will try again next week. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like button. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them down in the comments below. If you would like to help this channel even further, feel free to share this video with your friends, family, or other groups that you're in. All right? Outside of that, I got nothing. I'm just going to end it there. But I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great weekend or great week, depending on when you're watching this, of course. All right. Also, yeah, just let me know in the comments. Is Defiance worth it? Number one. Number two, what is the best fund? Who is the best? Yeah, based on what you've seen on this entire series, what's the best fund or funds? All right. I'm out of here. Take care. Later.